On June the 8th, we arrived in Fitzroy in the late morning. We arrived and we were waiting for transport to take us off the ships, and none arrived. Simple as that. Really, the amphibious assault on that day failed, and the people in charge failed to do their job because they never made sure we could get off the vehicles. There's a lot of people that have said an awful lot, and largely, if you don't know the facts, be quiet. But you know, those people who fail tend to make the most noise and kick those who can't defend themselves at the time, and that's what happened to us. And there was a time when they said get off, but without your equipment. Well, what would be the point of that? You're just being tourists. So it all really went wrong on the day, and we were there far too long on a beautiful winter's day. It was a clear winter's day. There were very few clouds in the sky, and as we know, in winter you can see far greater in the distance. And the pilots found us. We didn't take care of the forward fire observers, which was the Special Forces job. They left them there so they were able to pinpoint us. And then Carlos Cajon led the attack on our ships, and the Skyhawks killed 48 men and injured 97 others. And out of the 97, I just happened to become the worst injured to come off the ships, and subsequently the worst injured. So I'm told by the surgeons and the medical people to come back alive. I'll take that. You know, could have quite easily been somebody else and not me at all. I've had around about 97 major general anaesthetics. I've endured about 5 years of hospitalisation. I've received between 500 and 700 units of blood and blood products. I lost a relationship. I had no vision of the future. I could no longer play the sport I loved, still love. That was taken away from me, and pretty much that makes you about as low as you're going to get. My appearance at the time was far worse, and I had no thought that I would ever have a relationship again because of the way I looked, and because of in the early days, certainly with the burns, the smell was horrendous. Because burnt flesh, and with all the infection that comes with that, it all smells badly. So I never thought that I would get back to any normal level of life. And then drinking became a big problem. I was almost addicted to prescribed painkillers. But I stopped taking them because I wasn't myself, and I was being somebody I didn't like. I stopped drinking for a long time because that person was offending me as well. I'm one of these people who's got great discipline if I have to have it. But I suppose I sunk so low, and then I almost committed suicide. So, you know, I make no bones about it. I was in a very weak place mentally. But then again, if it doesn't kill you, it'll make you stronger, because now I'm in a very strong place. And I realised that I was always the master of my own destiny. I just needed lots of people's help. And many people go through life not wanting to ask for help from those people who want to give it. And that goes right the way from kids in schools to people in business, even at the top of business. Sometimes people think they're an island, or think that they have to look to be an island. And the reality is that they're making themselves vulnerable to their lack of ability to ask for help. Change is quite a scary process for a lot of people because people don't like change. I've come to like change and love change, but then again I had a lot of it forced upon me. But change is really scary for a lot of people because it's unsettling. Because people have to do things differently, or they have to move away from those people they've been comfortable with. And to do that, it takes a certain amount of courage. But you need that in all forms and shapes of business. You need a certain amount of moral courage in yourself. But that's about investing in you. But change is one of those things that if you resist for too long, you're likely to always be playing catch up, or you may never ever catch up. You'll never ever be able to achieve the things you need to achieve because you've gone and resisted change so much. Change just doesn't help you, it helps all those people that you work with and work for. By you making the investment now in the change, then it helps everybody else. And we've seen so many things change so quickly with technology. If you don't invest in it, or you don't get involved in it, you don't embrace it, you're going to get left behind. The media first focused in on me as soon as I arrived back, and I got to Woolwich Hospital and the media were there. And we were told they were a news crew, but they weren't, they were there to film me. And I really didn't respond terribly well and terribly positively. But then, if you think about it, I'd been travelling for the best part of a week to get home. It took 4 days to get me home from Montevideo because the aircraft I was on broke down. And then I had to be brought back. I was very poorly, but I still had that bit of spirit where I wanted to give a bit of lip to the camera crew because I thought they were trying to make a freak show. But they then explained to me what it was that they were trying to do. They then filmed me in hospital. And I was only just under 8 stone at that time. I'd lost 10 stone of my body weight. And I was a very, very poorly puppy. So I didn't want the media there, but I was willing to do my bit on camera because I thought it was supporting and applauding the military medical services, which would have been absolutely the correct thing to do, which I still do to this very day. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here and alive if it wasn't for those great, great people. But the fact of it was that I did find it difficult to deal with the media. The moment I realised my suffering had a benefit to others is something that I haven't really told a lot of people. It was when we received a letter from a lady in England who had gone through a terrible breakup, and she had 3 daughters, and she said in the letter that she had contemplated taking her own life and her 3 daughters because she didn't feel there was anything for them. But having seen my documentary, my first documentary, she realised that life wasn't so bad. And I've never heard of a single mum killing herself and her 3 daughters. I hope that is the case still to this day. But that was the first time. And then I've heard many other stories since. But that was the very first time that I realised the power of a real positive story and outcome can make that difference. And you can change people's lives. And hopefully I did change her to the point where she obviously felt that she could bring up those 3 lovely girls and they could live their lives. And it just made me feel really sad that somebody was in that situation. It made me feel very proud that just by telling my story could have that effect. Carlos Cachon, he was necessary in my recovery and my survival. I met Carlos because I was having terrible nightmares. For 10 years, roughly, I was getting burnt every night. And there was this jet screaming overhead with this hooded figure, this spectre with these demonic blazing red eyes. And it was a constant. And I needed to remove that. And we had the opportunity, Malcolm Brinkworth, who made my documentaries, he arranged for us to go to Argentina on the way to the Falklands. And we met Carlos. And he agreed to meet me, which was so important, because he was told that I needed help and I needed to change some things. and he was hugely courageous in doing so, because I don't know whether I could have done what he did. But it helped me put everything in perspective. But my story is totally different to somebody who's attacked in a terrorist way, because he was honourable and noble and wore his country's uniform and flew an aircraft. He didn't attack innocents at a pop concert or on a train station. He didn't murder people dressed up as something purporting to be normal, peaceful and caring. He wasn't a terrorist. He was a pilot in a war, and he did his duty. And he still believes that what he was doing was right. He just doesn't agree with me when I tell him that he was completely wrong. But we've become great friends. We've become great friends because it wasn't personal. You know, terrorism is personal. This wasn't personal. He was just doing his job. We were a target. He didn't know we were on board. All of us. He didn't know there were that many men there. So, you know, you just have to accept that stuff happens and you have to move on. Back in the 1980s, we had no mental support. If we'd have had alcoholism, there was plenty on offer for that. Any addiction, we had plenty of mental health offers for that. But PTSD didn't exist until 1987, when the first Gulf War happened. As we were told, because they didn't know about it, we couldn't have it. But for everybody that went to the Gulf, they could have it, and they could get the compensation and the treatment for it. We didn't get any treatment for that type of mental health problem, PTSD. We were left to our own devices, and maybe that's why there's been more people that have suffered from our conflict than suffered from other conflicts, or certainly that we know of. But maybe it's because we were largely not given any information as well, you know. But we did campaign as the Falklands group to help get better treatment and care and compensation for the guys and girls who went to different wars. Mental health is so debilitating, and it cripples families, it can cripple businesses. It's one of the things that we have to be so totally aware of, everybody else's mental state. And when people are crumbling, to notice that people are changing, and if people's drinking habits or their work habits or their eating habits or their lifestyle habits are changing, people need to be more sensitive around those things and help support people through that and get them the right help at the right time. And there are plenty of good organisations out there, but having been through mental health issues, what I do know is that you can help yourself to a degree, but at the end of the day, you do need the support of other people to help you get through the worst part of it, to know that people care, to know that people are there to support you and help you and guide you and give you the right type of information. Because a lot of it is because of confusion and not understanding what's going on. Because when things change for you, your circumstances change that cause it, whether it's chemically, you know, physically, emotionally, in the family. But when things change, you need to be able to make sense of what's gone on. And there are lots of good people out there. I talk about it in part, but I'm not a professional in that. I just happen to have lived with it for over 10 years, those types of problems that come with it. But that makes me slightly an expert, but only as a sufferer, and not somebody who can do the final fixing. I don't carry the tool bag of resolving people's issues, but I can point people in the right direction.